To set the scene for this video, we're going to step back a bit in terms of what we know about the rocket turret. Imagine that you're a new player playing through Portal 1 for the first time. You've only just escaped from the behind the scenes areas and you're currently halfway through, but you don't know that yet. You've just reached this area where you have to do a fling, and now, after her unsuccessful attempt to trap you earlier and kill you, GLaDOS starts speaking to you again.
It didn't have to be like this. I'm not kidding now. Turn back or I will kill you. I'm going to kill you. And all the cake is gone. You don't even care, do you? This is your last chance.
What the fuck is this thing you just activated? Up until this point in the game, you've never seen anything like this. You may have seen the sentry turrets from earlier in the earlier chambers and the attempts that GLaDOS has made at killing you, but you've never seen a robot that looks like this in the facility before, or even any robot that wasn't just a sentry turret from earlier. This is something completely new, and it looks completely alien compared to what you know before. See, I'd like to take a look at the way the rocket turret wakes up after you activate it for the first time in Portal. Something about the way it moves is very lifelike compared to everything you've seen before. Sentry turrets are stationary, cubes are basically just boxes, cameras are the only things that really have been able to move besides the on-station scaffolds, but I don't think you really count those living things. But the rocket turret looks like it's a living being. It's just the way it snaps and contorts into place. Initiating the rocket turret sets up one of the very last tutorials in the whole game. In the next map, you're going to be fighting GLaDOS, so you need to know how to defeat her. So what Valve does is that it shows you a room with the rocket turret isolated in its own environment. You're practically safe from it until it shoots out the glass, and this is a great indication to show that, first of all, it is dangerous and it is an enemy just like the sentry turrets before, but this is also a completely new type. It's one that can blow up stuff, and so it's blowing up a plane of glass to show you that it can. Something also completely unique to this turret is the fact that it can move around and track you. This is something that normal sentry turrets cannot do. They're fixed to one position and are forced to essentially look in that direction. The rocket turret meanwhile can adjust its position, albeit it is still affixed to a joint. God knows what would happen if Aperture made a walking turret, which I'm pretty sure Valve had considered at one point, but scrapped it for very obvious reasons. But that's going beyond the point now. You've just been introduced to a completely new enemy type in Portal, which is only going to be seen just one time, and then one last time during the last boss fight, and from there on, nothing.
Who's gonna make the cake when I'm gone? You. Look. You're with
What's your point anyway?
survival. Well then, the last thing you want to do is hurt me. What's your point? I have your brain scan. I'm permanently backtracked in case something terrible happens to you. Which is just about including this.
As you defeat GLaDOS and you're about to be set free, this is the last look you ever get to see of the rocket turret in the whole Portal series. It never makes an appearance in any of the games after this. And in my opinion, that is very tragic. Valve just built out this awesome new enemy that has never been seen before in Portal. It has completely unique mechanics to anything before, and is even capable of taking that AI who was responsible for putting you through everything, and it's only used twice in the entire series. And there certainly was a lot of modders who tried to use the rocket turret in the maps to its fullest potential, pushing it beyond the limits of what even Valve had even intended it to be used for. And some have been used to varying degrees of success, some that made excellent puzzles, and others that have cut the feed. Someone cut the feed. Now in terms of rocket turret in Portal 1, we've seen how Valve has handled it, and now we've also seen how the modders have handled it. But that brings us to the question of what happened to rocket turret after Portal 2. Surely now with all this new innovation that we've seen in the new game, we'd probably be expecting a bit more, right? Right? Well, unfortunately that's going to come a bit after this time. Because now I want to talk about the lore implication of the rocket turret, because it's kind of difficult when a Portal is something like this at the moment. You know, as great as the decision was to integrate the lore support and Half-Life bridging the two games together, I do one decision to do so was induced by one hell of a night after a bit of a good Steam sale, if you know what I mean. The rocket turret, much like the sentry turret, was probably created for the same purpose of being used by the military. However, while the sentry turret was eventually put out as a consumer product, as we see in Portal 2, the rocket turret just kind of stayed as a thing. We see about how the sentry turrets got used in the test chambers in Portal 1 and 2, however the rocket turret never seemed to leave this confined space that it's currently stuck in. We see it maybe once more in GLaDOS' chamber, which has a little bit of an interesting implication that maybe that might have been an early rocket turret testing site until they downgraded to the simpler room. But let's be real, I don't think Valve had any intention of justifying the rocket turret in the room other than just being for a boss fight. Which in all honesty, I think the fact the rocket turret didn't get much time in the spotlight aside from just, well, I think the two appearances in Portal 1, makes it more interesting that they tried to push it a bit more in Portal 2 and ultimately ended up falling through. Speaking of which, how about we look at those attempts? You know, I would lead everyone into a very safe sense of security, just talking about the rocket turret and how it slowly evolved over time, but we got 3 fucking variants of this thing. Yeah, apparently Valve loved the rocket turret so much that they made 3 whole variants of it for Portal 2. Isn't that crazy? In no particular order, these include the normal original rocket turret, the hover turret, and the tripwire turret. Now, I've already talked length about the rocket turret. I mean, this whole video has been dedicated to them so far, and I've spoken like 6 minutes at this point. The only real difference between Portal 1 and Portal 2 rocket turrets is the fact that Portal 2 rocket turrets can send signals to map logic if the rocket has been exploded or tripped, or if they've died for some god knows reason. Speaking of tripping them, let's talk about the tripwire turrets. Tripwire turrets are interesting in the fact that they're basically like stationary turrets turned into rocket turrets. They cannot move, they cannot look around, all they can do is just stay fixed in one position and look in that direction. Though, what makes them different from normal rocket turrets is the fact that the moment you trip their line, they instantly will fire upon you. However, this isn't a directed rocket launched towards you, it just shoots rockets towards the direction it's facing. Now let's talk about one of the most bizarre interactions I've ever seen in Portal 2. So, if you're a smart person, you'd probably know that turrets can have their lasers reflected off a reflection gel, which is a cut element from the game if you didn't know that. Did you know this functionality also exists for rocket turrets and tripwire turrets? Did you know the rockets themselves can also be reflected? Absolutely fucking magnificent. Now let's talk about the hover turrets. I'm gonna be real, it's not really that interesting. It's scrapped. There's not even anything left of it. It's just gone. I hope that by this point that you've really begun to appreciate the rocket turret for what it is and just how interesting it is as a concept in the Portal universe. Now I'm gonna talk about Portal.
Okay, Ossy.
What?
That's enough dumb Portal lore.
No.